Loud.
We'll call to order the, is this January 30th?
Yes.
The January 30th meeting of the Finance Committee of the Eagle Bridge and Port Authority. And really the business on our agenda today is to review the December financial reports. And if I may, I'd like to turn it over to you and ask you to highlight the significant issues.
Thank you. As you'll see, our restricted accounts are at 7.4. Some very interesting news. If you look at our listing of the bank accounts that make up those, the compensating balance for Tompkins is $200,000. After January, so in December, it was $470,000. So what we did in January was we paid off the term loan with some of this excess from the compensating balance. We paid off the term loan that would have gone into next fiscal year by a few months. And we paid down half of what was owed on the line of credit so that we can get that ready in case we might need it in the next fiscal year. We've got that line of credit's approximately $500,000. It is $500,000 if we pay it off completely. So that would be a good buffer for us going forward into next fiscal year if we needed something. So we were able to do that, and we still have $309,000 in the compensating balance. So we could pay down that line a little bit more if we chose to get it to a position where we'd feel comfortable, and then we could borrow from it on and off, pay it back, borrow, pay it back.
Is there any reason not to draw the compensating balance down to the minimum 200,000?
I don't think so, because we put in approximately $10,000 a month anyway, just to make sure the compensating balance stays above the 200. So we could actually take another 100 and move it in onto the line of credit.
Yeah, and I think the bank would think that made sense.
Well, they like to see us.
From our point.
It is for our point of view, but the bank does like to see that we use it. So what we might start doing in the interim is to take the next payroll where we have the money, but we'll put it on the line. Then we can pay it off the line within a month. So there's not an interest payment of any size, but show that we're actually using the line of credit, because they don't like you to get it down to zero and just hang on to $500,000 line of credit. So we could use it for some things and then pay it back because we would have the money to show activity on the account. And then it would be there in case we need it for next year at some point. So that you'll notice that in the January statements that compensating balance on that one account will be down to the $200,000 or close to it. Otherwise, everything in the restricted account is pretty much what we would expect it to be. Our regular accounts receivable, we have 87% of the regular is either current or 1 to 30 days. If you look at the accounts receivable 31 to 60 days and 61 to 90 days and take out any AEAS payments, we only have $8,000, $6,000 owed to us in 31 to 60 and 61 to 90 days. So most of our receivables are coming in right on target when they're supposed to be, which is wonderful. Our AEAS, those two items open at the end of December have been paid, and the money's come back in. So we're just starting to reuse it again. We're working on the construction in progress. We are working on moving some of the big items into fixed assets. The Malls F project should be almost done. We're hoping for it to be done in the next couple of weeks. So that will take almost 2 million off the construction in progress and put it into fixed assets. We are working on separating out what was the harbor deepening project was combined with the port expansion project, and now they're separated. So we are working on separating all the expenses that are currently in construction in progress, and we can then get rid of those items that belong to the old harbor deepening. We will probably expense them. So you may see for year end a $600,000 expense for the old harbor deepening project, because we don't know if that will come to fruition.
Sure.
So we don't want to make it a fixed asset at this point. And this has been all mostly engineering, design, studies, things like that. So it's not any actual work. We think that the auditors will likely go with expense it. Under accounts payable, you'll see again that the New York State retirement is paid off. All of our project AP, it's all of $23,000. That was paid off in the beginning of January. So that's empty right now. Our AEAS and Contour, that is the offset back and forth with the receivable. And of the payables, our largest is to our partner at the port. And as we get the money in, the final money in from the wind turbine, we got half of it in, we're paying that off, so that'll all be gone. And then we have the bridge inspection, and I believe we do have the bridge inspection.
The draft of it, and then when we review that and go back over with that, they'll take the draft designation off that and call it final. And then they'll provide an executive summary for the board.
And so we've started paying $10,000 every so often. With some of the money that we've been reimbursed for a few things, we may have the money to just go ahead and pay it off and not have that hanging over our head as we move into the next fiscal year. And the city of Ogdensburg did not send us a November Leo bill. So we got November and December in the same month. And that's why the city of Ogdensburg made the list this month. They've both been paid off. But they had a problem on their end. So we ended up with two bills at one time. And other than that, our payables are, there's nothing in the over 90. So we're doing well. We're moving it back to manageable amounts. Any questions on the balance sheet?
I don't have it any.
Okay. On the budget to actual, you'll notice that airport revenue is up $63,000. Most of that is in, or a good portion of that is in airport parking revenue. We only budgeted for the full year about $40,000 because we've had it free during COVID and we just didn't expect the parking to be so high this year. We're already at $51,000, which is excellent for where we are, but not from where we have been at our high. And our rental car income, we had budgeted only at $3,000 because everyone had pulled out. And with Blevins, we're almost double that right now. So there are little things here and there that are making up that, that excess, which is wonderful. Everything else we pretty much know about. If we go down to the bridge expenses, there's a little overage in maintenance expense. We had not anticipated buying as much salt as we have so far, and we paid US Ecology. What did they do for us?
That was we did the study and the sampling on, we have a long-term spill issue back here from actually the late 90s, I believe. And we're trying to move forward with a study to see where it is out in the parking lot. And we have a pump and treat system, but we want to get rid of that and see what we need to do to eliminate that. So they did a lot of drilling to designate the areas that would probably have to be excavated there. But we're just getting a slow start on that just to get this off the, get it off the books there. But that was what that was.
Yeah, that one hadn't been budgeted, so that will follow us till the end of the year. That's $4,500. Our general expenses under the bridge, one of the big things was the overage in interest expense. The last two Piasecki payments for the Tiger grant took about 60 days to get back from New York State, and we ended up with about $6,700 in interest payments. And that was not expected. We had expected that to just be gone before this fiscal year, so we ended up with a bit of expense on that. And our legal fees are not a lot more than the year budget, but they're over budget already, so you'll see that. And that's just what comes that we need legal assistance. Our airport, the timing issue on the maintenance expense for the sand deliveries and MX fuel. So it's not an issue that should even out over time. Our fuel sales are still relatively strong. They're waning a bit because of the lack of GA in the winter, but we still have a bit of a profit on that. Under general expenses, we have not anticipated, well, we thought in the beginning that the pavement study and the design on the SRE building would be kept for the projects, but because the projects aren't definitive, we decided to expense them instead. Another situation that if we don't get it, you're not going to fixed assets and design work on something or a study. So we just expensed it, causing that to be over. And otherwise, everything else we have discussed for the November meeting, and things are going along relatively as we expect them to. Are there any questions on the budget to actual?
I don't have a question other than to see whether something that I observed, whether I'm understanding this correctly. When I take a look at the total expenses and the operating revenue plus what reimbursements we've received through, let's say, the CARES Act. When I look at all of those things, it looks to me as if we have a positive number that would contribute a little bit more toward working capital going into next year. And that's a part of how we've been able to pull accounts payable back and so forth. And I think that is really just wonderful, because I know that the expenses have been controlled.
We've been trying, yes.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that under these circumstances, for us to be able to improve the working capital situation is really excellent.
And we should see that. I'm going to put together an actual cash flow. It'll only be for 6 months, for April through September.
Yeah.
And you hopefully will see that as operating in capital.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll see that will help offset at least the first portion of next fiscal year.
Excellent. No, I don't think I have any questions. Any
She answered the ones I was gonna.
Okay. Okay. Do you guys have anything to add or ask or talk about?
No, I think we covered everything. So,
Steve, want to bring anything else up?
No,
before we-
No, I want to compliment Patty. She kept an eye out on the Tompkins accounts and we kind of talked about it, but then I think in the last 10 days, though, she mentioned how she moved those around and we eliminated one loan anyway. And
That's right.
it'll show up too. That'll, how I was talking, the difficulties we're going to have with the upcoming budget.
Sure.
We're finding little things there. We're not, anywhere near there yet, but there are little things that are showing up
Mhm.
and to kind of minimize some of that. So we're hopeful
Well, that's
with that.
super. I think these are positive steps and of course, we're always constrained by reality.
Yeah.
And, yeah, we need to deal with it. Well, if there's nothing else.
I would move to adjourn, if that's what you're looking for.
Vote for adjournment.
Aye.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.